Here in East Texas, stories matter. On the Right Team podcast, we bring you the best of it all. Local sports, rich history, and national takes with a hometown perspective, along with faith and inspiration to keep you moving forward. From the classroom to the field, we're about learning, growing, and celebrating the communities we call home. There's something here for everyone. Listen to the Right Team podcast wherever you get your favorite podcasts. The Right Team podcast. East Texas stories told right. Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another episode of From the Press Box here on the Right Team podcast. We are coming to you we are live as we record this, but we are always deep in the piney woods of East Texas. I am David Weaver, host of the Right Team podcast, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, the sports director of KMHT 103.9 FM, the heartbeat of East Texas, and the pastor of Friendship Baptist Church in Marshall, Texas, Brother Matt Paul. Matt, you do have a little bit different background there. Man, it's just like a pastor to get booted out of his own office on a Friday, right?
That's right. We're coming to you from the house. So I've got two guests kind of back over here in the background, my dog. So if we hear any noise or if we get any visitors, they may put us on alert, but I think we should be good.
Well, we do have a special visitor, as you mentioned, visitors. We do have a special guest this morning on this Friday morning. Here from East Texas, none other than the head coach and athletic director at Elysian Fields ISD, Coach Bo Maines. Coach, we're going to bring you in here, and thank you for coming, and welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's always a good time. I love talking to you guys.
So this idea came, Matt and I were doing our podcast a couple of days ago, and it just kind of came up about just the success that's been going on down there in Elysian Fields year round. And as we sit here and talk, we're talking before we started recording, the 19th is really your anniversary in terms of when your first day on the job there in EF. And so you've been here right at a full year, and man, it's been blowing and going ever since you got here. I mean, how do you feel a year in compared to where you were a year ago at this time?
Well, I mean, really good. The community's been great. The kids are great. All of the things that it takes to build a good culture and to build a good program are all here. The pieces are all in place. But like I've tried to tell everybody, we still have a lot of work to do. It was a very, very historic and enjoyable football season. And I think a lot of people felt like at the end of that season, they're like, hey, we're back, what they say, the Longhorns are back, every single year we seem to say that. And I'm a Horns fan. Don't take that the wrong way, but we say the Horns are back every year. And I just said, well, we need to tap the brakes because there's a lot of things we need to work on. So as far as what we can do and where we can go, just tons of possibilities and tons of potential. But what they say about potential as well, it doesn't matter a hill of beans if you don't enact on it and get things pushed the right direction.
That's right, and you mentioned your football season. That's a great place to start as we kind of go through the calendar here for you guys. But I don't know if you remember this. I know you slept some since then. But the very first time you and I met, I asked you a question that I'll ask every single coach, and that is, what are you expecting to see from your football team in the fall? And of course, it was a little bit different situation for you because I think you had literally been in the district maybe a few hours. I don't know that you'd even met the kids yet. So it's kind of unfair on my part to ask that question at that point. But you did ask me to give you a few months to kind of get to know the kids. And then, of course, football season happened. And, man, apparently that was a marriage fit in heaven because you guys seemed to immediately click, you and your new staff coming in. And as you said, you guys got off to a really hot start. And it kind of carried you, really through the postseason to the point where, you guys were still playing outside of a team that actually made it to AT&T Stadium, right? And so talk about just kind of the way the year went once it got started and maybe some things that you were surprised about and some things that pleased you coming out of that football season.
We talked to or met with the seniors at the very beginning. If I got here on the 18th or 19th, whatever it was, within a few days I was talking to the seniors about the fact that the season was only going to go as far as they took us because it was a new system. It was new coaches. It was new everything. And so we were only going to go as far as they wanted to go. And we were lucky as a staff to have a lot of buy-in from that senior group, because there was a lot of accountability from that senior group. And so when things were tough and we had to dig and find some wins, and that we were able to get it done. And as far as staffing goes, it was, I think the district had like 48 openings when I got here. And that's not, obviously, we don't have 48 coaches, but the district as a whole. So that kind of tells you the situation we were in with just, as somebody's applying, or you post a job and you get one applicant. And so when somebody comes in there, it's basically like, are you morally sound? Can you breathe? And will you take care of the kids? And I hate to make it sound that way, but there were a few that hires that were like that. But, coming into it, it's amazing. I have two really good mentors. One of them is my aunt, and one of them is my former AD, Coach Becky Spurlock. And they told me through the whole process. The second football season was over last year, 2 years ago, whenever it was. I started looking for a job and got really, disheartened and almost depressed at the fact that I couldn't find one. I felt like I could do a really good job for somebody. And they told me constantly, when God's ready for you to be somewhere, he's going to put you there, and you're going to be put in the right place. And it just, everything here has fallen into place. Great. I mean, it really has, to where you can't not say that it was, a divine marriage, so to speak, as you said, that, we'd have a coach that didn't want to come out here that I really wanted to come out. And one of them said no to me. I wound up getting Coach Robert Tamplin, he's a tremendous asset to me. He's, unbelievable, the people that he knows and the respect that he has in East Texas. And then another one said no to me that kind of was devastating, and I got Markendrick Bell out of it. And Coach Bell's been another huge pickup so when you put all those things together, it's the job has shown me that, you can't judge people at face value, number one. And number two, if something goes wrong, you never know what's around the corner. It could be a lot better. So we've been very fortunate with those things. And then football wise, not being pretentious, you tie it into having Nunu Kennedy, and he obviously helps. He's the bigger racer. I watched him in the baseball game the other night where we let, was it who I don't remember, whoever it was last week, we let him come back. We were up by 5, let him come back. And a lot of them were just bad throws. It's throws that we shouldn't have made. And I wore Nunu out after the game because he threw a couple of them were from him. But then, of course, he saves the day at the end by making him miss a tag and then coming all the way in from second base. And I told Coach Wolf, our head baseball coach, I said, it's nice for me to sit in the dugout and see somebody else have the frustration that is Nunu Kennedy, where 1 minute you're aggravated, you're bringing him over and saying, if you do that again ever, then I'm seriously going to consider not putting you in. Of course, he'd go right back in, but and then he saves your butt the next day. So, yes, everything came together perfectly, divinely, and the seniors bought in and everything else. But this senior class is tremendously talented on the boys' side and the girls' side, and that's the reason why we've had a lot of success this year.
Yeah, Coach, I wanted to ask you. You mentioned that I had Coach Wolf on my show. I guess it was Monday this week, previewing this big series with Harleton for baseball, and he talked about, 9 seniors on that baseball team, and at a school like EF, obviously you're if they were on the baseball team, there's a good chance some other sports saw them as well. Talk about a little more in depth about how impactful not just Nunu but that whole senior class has been to you in this first year here.
Well, they're an extremely close group that I've learned. They played growing up together, and I think in some ways, regardless of why it happened or when it happened, I think they were all a little disappointed that everybody kind of polarized and went to baseball or basketball or straight football or whatever the case may be. And so for them, coming in this year, and they all just decided, hey, here's a new guy, let's all give him a chance, and all played multiple sports that they hadn't played since they were freshmen. And that had a lot to do with it, just the refreshment of that whole group, that whole senior group. But their parents are really close. Their parents are super supportive. They're a really close group on both sides, the boys and the girls side. And so that plays a lot into it. That's, what we constantly preach to our kids. If you don't if you don't fight for the person that's next to you, if you only fight for yourself, then we're not going to get very far. And so I would say that's probably the singular philosophy that this group has, that they fight really hard for each other. And that's certainly paid dividends for all of our programs this year.
You know, you bring up an interesting point, and I want to phrase this the right way, because I have to be careful the way I say it, because I don't want to be misunderstood. So obviously Elysian Fields is a small rural community. And in my experience, those kinds of communities are great because everyone knows everyone, and everybody feels a part of what you're trying to do. But you have to kind of tap into that, the positivity of that.
Mm-hmm.
And because there is a tendency sometimes for it to maybe, and for lack of a better term, I guess I'm saying, bleed into the locker room. And so in many cases, in a smaller, close-knit community, you almost have to be overprotective of your locker room because to protect the team aspect of it, but also you want it to be a community thing, right? I mean, there's a delicate balance there, and you seem to, and obviously winning plays a, it's
Yes.
a perfect deodorant, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, it covers over a lot of things, but you seem to have been able to have the skill to kind of tap into that and bring that out of Elysian Fields. And look, I've been associated with this community, kind of as an outside part of it for several years, going back into the 90s. And whenever you're able to actually do that, you see the success that you've had, because it truly feels like a community effort. And what's kind of been what was your goal in terms of being able to bring everyone back into the community part of it and make this literally one big happy family now down there in EF? Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And that whole situation that you're describing is one of the biggest reasons why my wife and I were ready to move our family 4 hours away from where we've been for the last 48 years. Just because of that, that's what we were looking for, was a place that we could lock all of our teams into a community and make the parents feel, and not make them feel that way, but genuinely make them a part of what we do, because then that means that they're hearing good things at home. I think a lot of times when the parents are somewhat detached from the actual work that goes into it, they don't know what happens from Sunday to Saturday to get them ready. There's more animosity at home, or more coaching from home, or more, over the table negative talk. But when your parents see the work that's being put in and the care and the compassion and the love that the coaches have, then I think sometimes they're more hesitant to be negative. And I'm not naive. Like 11-2, yeah, that cures everything. Making playoffs in every sport throughout the year cures everything and makes everybody feel good. But to directly answer the question, you have to involve them enough. We did a Feed the Jackets thing every Monday night or Tuesday night, whichever it was. So the parents were coming in to the concession stand, making things for the kids, and the kids was just a fellowship time. And then the kids made food for the janitors one day and the maintenance people one day. And the parents know that they're always welcome to practice. That is one of the hidden advantages of practicing at 6 o'clock in the morning. The parents usually don't want to show up at a 6 o'clock, or they can't. They're working, obviously, right? But no, I say that in jest. Our parents know that our practices are open to them whenever. I mean, we have nothing to hide. We're not treating kids poorly on the field, and everything that we're doing, they're welcome to come see. In fact, one of the coolest things we did, that is something I'll do the rest of my career as long as I'm running the program, is well, hopefully we'll do it a lot more often, because that means we're playing on Thanksgiving. But we did the open practice at Thanksgiving, and then we took a picture. We had all the parents come out of the stands, and everybody took a picture on the EF, and then we had some drinks and fellowship and that sort of thing with all the parents. It was just a really, really neat community thing to see. I mean, there were probably 500 or 600 people there, and that's a lot for out here. So, no, the support from them has been great, absolutely great, and that's something that my wife and I have definitely latched onto, is being out here in this community sense and just trying to build it as much as we possibly can.
Yeah, that's right. And it is a huge advantage in a situation like that to be able to do that. And it can also be a detriment if it's not. It can work against you. And so, hats off and kudos. I've seen it. I felt it. You can sense it when you go to EF now. There's a different positivity there in terms of everyone is working together and pulling together and looking ahead, and that's great to see. You can, and I believe it has a big part in the success and what you guys have been able to achieve this year. Let's kind of, and I wanted to go back over this because, and you mentioned it, and it's right on. I mean, you guys have had every team make the playoffs at the varsity level. I believe every team. Volleyball made it. Football made it. My gosh, you got a state cross country champion. Your cross country team actually went to the state meet. Basketball, both basketball teams, and man, what an exciting run your girls had there at the end. It was kind of looking bleak for them the last couple of weeks, and they hit their stride and were able to get into the postseason and against a pretty good St. Augustine team there in the bi-district round, right? Mm-hmm. And I actually got to see your boys. I believe the second round game over here in Hallsville. I went and sat in and watched that game, and you guys went toe to toe against a really, really good Hawkins team.
Very good.
And so, of course, and you mentioned your spring sports, baseball, obviously. I believe it's still in first place. Am I right on that?
Yeah, they're game and a half up on Beckville.
Yeah, and what a district race that's turning out to be right here in Harrison County, right? I mean, really good stuff going on there. Man, just as the athletic director, right, of EF. And it's one thing when a lot of people sometimes forget this. I mean, you're a full-time football coach, head coach, you run everything in football. And then when that season ends, your job doesn't end, right? I mean, you just put on another big hat and, keep grinding out and keep working. How has that been for you in your first experience as an athletic director?
Well, I've always liked logistical, organizational, those type of things, problem solving, putting people where they need to be and situations is the best for the kids. I like to be, I like to put out fires as they come, and the fires certainly come fast and furious in the spring. It's been enjoyable. I really do like this side of the job as much as I like the football side of the job, because it is, I see it as two completely separate things. I have to separate myself as a football coach and an athletic director. Otherwise, I'm not doing any kind of service to my coaches. And it's been a fun challenge coming here. Our girls program, it needs a lot of attention. And I'm trying to make sure that we get it and we push it in that direction, and we fix off-season issues, and we fix development issues and those sort of things that we have in our girls program, because our girls side for the next 5 or 6 years has tremendous potential. There are some phenomenal athletes already at the high school for our girls, and there's even more coming from 5th and 6th grade up. And so as an athletic director, I take great pride in everybody being successful. We went to last night, went to some spring league volleyball in Marshall at Marshall Junior High with our JV girls and our varsity girls. And I told Coach Netherland that I thought the girls played hard. I thought they played well, but the biggest thing for me was I just liked watching them have fun. I mean, they were all in there jumping around, screaming and yelling, having a good time. And that's what really the biggest thing for us at EF is, as an athletic director, is we've got to keep the kids that we have. We can't lose kids to everywhere around us. And the only way we can keep those kids is to make it an environment that they want to be a part of. And speaking on, you were talking about involving the community. We're having the State of the Union, what I call a State of the Union addresses. This is the second one we've had. And I do those just to be completely transparent in everything we're doing. I've told all the parents, there's no hard questions. There's questions that if I can't answer them, then I'll get the answer for you as fast as I can. Or there's questions that have problems. And if there's a problem, then we're going to find a solution. So when you're talking about getting the community involved, being completely transparent and allowing them to come up and ask tough questions has really helped me out as an athletic director as well.
Yeah. And Coach, you and I have talked on the radio show about how this season's almost busier than the fall. even though that's your sport, as football coach. But I know as athletic director, and football will be here before you know it, you're caught up in this great year. I know there's no way you can't be just neglecting next year. It's got to be on your mind. Talk about, year two is always such you've got your feet wet, you've got the lay of the land and everything. Talk about some of the thoughts that are going through your mind as you look ahead to year two, specifically with respect to football.
So you get a better feel of the kids, and you get a better feel of their capabilities and their abilities. So this would be the big year that not just coming in year one, there were a lot of position changes, but those were strictly based on looking at numbers. We had an offensive lineman that finished sixth in the district in the 100-meter last year, and he was playing tackle. So I said, well, you're going to play middle linebacker for me. And he leads the team in tackles. He just plays sideline to sidelines. But that's purely based on seeing a kid's numbers. Now that we know a kid's ability and a kid's heart and a kid's drive, now we can start putting kids in position that need, that are not a position where you can be talented, but you don't have to have a whole lot of leadership. Whereas a quarterback or a middle linebacker or something like that are going to need the talent, and they're going to need the leadership. So a year two move is just knowing the team better, and of course knowing the coaching staff better. And then every opportunity we get during the period, trying to steal some time as we get further into the spring of starting to work some football drills, and then we'll take advantage of that time too in the summer.
Cool.
And Coach, before we let you go, you guys recently literally got handed the keys to a new field house down there. And I was as proud as anyone, I think, to see that with the work we did on the bond back in 2024 to actually get it across the finish line. But it's really great in those situations to finally see the actual building that's there now. What a beautiful facility. And as you can see here, we have at least half the field that I could find online. We got to come down there and get some press box shots, man, from the field, make it look great. But yes. But this is, of course, just a little bit of what you see here in terms of Elysian Fields athletic facilities. How big is that new field house going to be for you guys? And maybe what are some other things that maybe you are thinking about we can maybe see in the future in terms of facility improvement?
Well, the biggest thing with the new field house, it gives our girls a home. Our girls were changing, our softball girls were changing in they're using their batting cages as essentially a locker room during the season. So it gives our girls softball a home permanently and a place to call their own and start to, develop that, and a coach's office in there for our softball coaches. It moves our junior high kids out of the old white building. I don't know that there's anybody still around in Elysian Fields that remembers anything but dressing in a white building. It's going to be sad. I tell you this, it's going to be sad for everybody in this town when that white building gets demolished, except for this guy, because I'll be glad to see it go. It's done its part. Great job.
I've been in that white building, and I can tell you it's served its purpose.
Yes, it definitely has. We've gotten use out of it, but we're going to get rid of that. And what that helps us do is now we have a changing facility for our umpires and our officials when they come here. We've rerouted. You guys have been to the game, so you know how sometimes our visiting and home teams crisscross just because of where we have to put them. So now our visiting team officials will all be completely removed from our fans and from our opposing teams and us, which if you're at the Harleton game, it would have been really nice to have that officiating crew completely removed from our fans. But it's a phenomenal facility. It really is great. And the good news, bad news scenario is we built that, and our junior high program has already outgrown the locker room. So we've talked to the people that did the lockers, and we're going to be able to still get everything done without spending any more money. And we'll get more lockers in there. We'll be up to like 65 lockers. So it'll help us grow, which I certainly, that's a goal of ours. And then moving forward, we've got estimates on wrapping the fences in the football field on the visitor side and the home side, wrapping the baseball and softball fields. Well, of course, we have the new weight room that's coming in. The equipment should all get here today, and they're going to install that on Monday. So hopefully Tuesday or Wednesday, we'll be working out in a brand new weight room. all new weight equipment, everything in there. Board was very good about that. Our boosters, everybody that donated in that instance, we're going to have a top-notch facility in there to train our kids. And then we've done some artwork in there. We've had some branding guys that are coming in. Of course, the gym, the competition gym, we're redoing the locker rooms, redoing the coaches' offices, redoing the foyer. So there's a lot that has been going on, and there's a lot in the future. We're talking about completely redoing our track so that we can get host some track meets out here, doing drainage stuff, which I know that drainage stuff isn't sexy and fancy, but it's definitely stuff that keeps your facilities where they're supposed to be for a while. So yeah, there's a lot going on. And the great thing has been that our superintendent, Amy Dixon, and our board members, they're all on board because they know that a healthy sports program, regardless of what's on the scoreboard, if you have a healthy and active sports program, then it does change your entire school culture and your community.
Yes, it does. And I think you guys have pulled off an amazing transformation. And I don't want to sound like I'm being negative with anyone in particular. It's just it's undeniable that there's a different feel. Not that there was anything bad before, but I mean, you guys have seemed to ratchet it up a notch in terms of this being a positive experience for all your kids, number one. And for it to happen in such a quick amount of time is just very impressive. And so I wanted to tip my cap to you if I was wearing one today, and just say job well done. And now go build on it for year two. That's the thing, right?
Yes, sir. That's what I tell the kids all the time. Job half done ain't done. So it definitely ain't half done yet. We ain't even to the halfway point, but still a lot of work to do. And all my credit goes to my coaching staff. We've got a young coaching staff with a lot of energy, and even the older ones like me are still managing to find the energy somehow every day. So you can't do your job without good people, and you can't do your job without great kids. And we've got both of those in spades out here.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. And we're kind of, and you and I were talking before we started recording. I mean, you guys are less than 4 weeks away from graduation and school being out. But my gosh, I mean, we mentioned your baseball team, your softball team. You've got track season in full bore. I mean, we know you're going to have at least one, obviously more probably, but we know one for sure that's going to be contending for state championships at that state track meet. That's Kara Sims, right?
Yes. Yeah, for sure. We, in fact, I think the week after I left the state track meet last year, I told my wife, I said, just go ahead and book us a room in Austin for next year, because she's going to be back here.
Yeah.
Of course, Alani Robinson has a chance, and our 4x1 relay has an opportunity to get out as well. So, we're just right now the challenge with Coach Wolf and I has been we've got to work around regional track meet and the first round of baseball, which is a great problem to have, right?
Sure.
You might have that problem, then you're working on summer workouts and thinking about next year.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, Coach, I don't want to take up too more of your time. I know you're busy on this Friday, but man, I want to appreciate you stepping in with us and having a brief conversation about all the great things going on down there in EF, and we'll be certainly following you guys and keeping up with it here on our end.
Yes, sir. Always good to talk to you guys, man. It's a fun time. Any opportunity I have to visit, and anytime I have a chance to promote our program, I'm all about it. Y'all just give me a shout. I'll be there.
We'll do. We'll circle back for sure and have you on here plenty of times coming up for sure.
All right. Appreciate you, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, guys. Y'all have a good one.
All right. Man, that was good stuff, partner.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. And he's just so easy to talk to, and every coach does this. I mean, they do a great job, at least the ones I've always worked with, of promoting their kids and being involved in their kids. But to have someone come in from his background of being really nothing but big city type places, to be able to form that connection so quickly, as I said, And I wasn't just blowing smoke. I really have been impressed with the way he's been able to integrate, his background into what EF stands for, and it's been a perfect marriage, at least through one season for sure.
No doubt.
So, okay, let's move on to fun stuff here for you and me as we get ready to go into this weekend. Man, it's very busy. We've mentioned this before earlier this week in terms of the NBA playoffs starting. I don't know if you're like me. It's kind of hard for me to envision these play-in games as playoff games, although I know they really are. They're one and done type things. But it's really hard for me to associate that with being, NBA playoffs have started yet. For me, the playoffs actually start tomorrow on Saturday.
Well, and the NBA would agree with you. If you've noticed, college basketball has those Tuesday, Wednesday games, right? They call them the first four, and they're very adamant they are not play-in games. They do not call them play-in games. Those are the first round. And then you got the round of 64 and the round of 32. The NBA calls this thing a play-in tournament. And that you can hear the announcers, they say, like when the Hornets when the Blazers beat the Suns in that big game the other night, the Blazers move on to the playoffs. That this is not the playoffs. That this is a tournament to get into the playoffs. So they're pretty clear about that. But boy, I don't call it playoff, call it play in, call it play out, whatever. It's been some good stuff. I'll tell you what, Wednesday night was like Steph Curry is still that guy. Oh my gosh, it's so much fun.
Yeah, and of course we're talking about however you want to look at them, play-in games, seeding games, whatever you want to call them. There's still two more of them that are actually taking place this evening. Of course, Charlotte will be playing the Orlando for the 8th seed in the East. And then in the West, the 8th seed game is going to be, of course, Golden State, as you mentioned, led by Steph Curry at Phoenix, playing the Suns. The Warriors looking, Matt, to be that team that's 8 games under 500, was 8 games under 500 in the regular season to actually slip into the playoffs, which if they do that, with Steph being the way he showed the other night, still having that, in his back pocket potentially, could they be the most dangerous sub 500 team to ever make the NBA playoffs starting this weekend? That's an interesting question.
It is. It's funny. A sub 500 team, I'm pretty sure, made the playoffs and eliminated Dirk Nowitzki and the Mavs on his MVP season in the first round as an 8 seed led by Baron Davis. The Miami Heat have had some teams. The recipe for a sub 500 team is, are they an experienced team with a couple dudes, but they just had some injuries or some unforeseen circumstances that caused that? Golden State falls into that category. The problem is who the number 1 seed is this year, and it's the overwhelming favorite and defending champ, Oklahoma City Thunder. So could I see the Warriors winning tonight? Absolutely. Do I see any way they do more than win 1, maybe 2 from the Thunder? No, that's the extent of what they could do.
That leads us into our predictions for these first-round matchups, and I wanted you to be able to walk us through that here in terms of the way you see it in both leagues. What are some things you're looking forward to in terms of who you expect to maybe come out of these things and make it to the second round?
Well, I'll just break down the Saturday series. Raptors and Cavaliers. The Raptors kind of new to the scene. They were kind of a little bit of a revelation this year. The Cavaliers, I think we talked about this Wednesday. They were that team last year that just sort of exploded. Here we are, 60-something wins, and we only make it to the second round. The winner of this series is likely going to face the Pistons. And I think the Cavs, if that's them, they'd have the chance to kind of flip that script, because the Pistons are that team that won 60 games and kind of like, where did they come from this year? I like the Cavs in this series. I think they're a little more seasoned, a little more ready. I like them, but that's going to be a competitive series. The Raptors have really improved a lot. The series that everyone should want to be watching Saturday, and moving forward is at 2:30, the Timberwolves and the Nuggets. The Timberwolves have been in the Western Conference Finals each of the last 2 years. 2 years ago, they faced the Nuggets in the Western Conference Finals. Jokic, Anthony Edwards, a guy that always raises his game in the playoffs. I think that is a fantastic series. I do like the Nuggets, but no one's going to be shocked if the Timberwolves do it. They've been doing it the last couple of years. Hawks and Knicks is an interesting one to me. Atlanta comes in winning 20 of their last 26 games. And so the Knicks, they were in the Eastern Conference Finals last year. They're the 3 seed. The Hawks are the 6. The Hawks have gotten so much better since the Trae Young trade. That's never a good sign when you're an all-star and the team trades you and they got better.
That didn't happen in Dallas last year.
It did not. It did not. No, sir. But watch the Hawks in that series. Watch the Hawks. They're a dangerous team. I'm curious to see how that goes. And then, of course, hey, Rockets and Lakers, one of our Texas teams, is the night game tomorrow. We've talked about this one a little bit. If LeBron James can win this series when Luka's out and Austin Reeves are out, although there's some questions about if this series gets late, could one or both of them make their way back? Boy, that would be yet another feather in the cap of LeBron James in his illustrious career. The Rockets are the favorites in that series, even though the Lakers have home court. The Lakers are the 4, the Rockets the 5. But with those injuries, that's going to be a fascinating series to watch. You move over to Sunday, Sixers and Celtics, right? I mean, that goes back to the 80s, David. I mean, that's a rivalry that goes way, way back. Boston is just clicking the Tatum thing. He came back earlier than people thought, and it has worked. The Sixers are good. Of course, here's a shocker. Joel Embiid, injury status. How will that work? I mean, him and Anthony Davis should just have a one-on-one, and the first one to get hurt loses. I mean, it's just what it is. I like the Celtics in that series, but the Sixers are dangerous. They've got some pieces. The Thunder are waiting on the winner of the Suns Warriors. I don't think it matters. I think the Thunder are definitely the favorite. Pistons are waiting on the winner of the Magic Hornets. The Hornets got a little something going, man, after that win the other night. I could see maybe the Magic winning a game or two from the Pistons. I could see the Hornets maybe pushing it even a little further. I don't know. But I still like the Pistons. And then the late game tomorrow night, the Blazers and the Spurs. Boy, I tell you, and I didn't like them back in the day because I was a Mavericks fan and they were a big thorn in the Mavericks side. But as well as I do, late 90s, throughout the 2000s, early 2000s, and into the 2010s, Robinson, Duncan, Ginobili, Parker, the Spurs were a mainstay in the NBA postseason. And whether you like them or not, it just feels right to have them back and relevant. And they are really good, and they are one of the favorites this year. So I certainly like the Spurs in that series.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up the Spurs being a thorn in our side, and talk about hitting the nail on the head. And as you were saying that, it just hit me. I mean, the Spurs were really to the NBA what the Patriots were to the NFL.
Yeah,
a long-running dynasty that year in, year out. They went in that little run where every other year they would win a championship.
Every odd year. Yeah.
Yeah. And, there was a lot that went into it. Of course, Tim Duncan and Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili and all those guys. And, of course, they had Pop running it as coach. And but, yeah, I'm not going to agree with you and say it's good to see them back in because I really was enjoying the fact that they were struggling. But but it was only a matter of time once they won that lottery and got Wembanyama. And I think we all have forgotten in the joy of having Cooper Flagg with the Mavs this year, how close the Spurs were to actually winning the lottery last year, finishing second. Can you imagine the team that had Wemby and Coop on that one? Not to mention the other supporting pieces coming around, De'Aaron Fox, and so yeah, man. And I guarantee you, the Thunder hope they get knocked out at some point before they get to the finals.
Yeah.
But they've kind of owned Oklahoma City.
We have potential for a Spurs Nuggets second round that I think I told you last week. those two teams played on a Saturday the previous weekend. It was the best NBA game I've seen in a long time. Jokic against Wemby will be theater. It will be cinema. And that would just be the second round. And I think I sent you a tweet the NBA put out that it was their most watched season in 24 years. The NBA is very popular right now. And
It's really surprised me. I mean, it surprised me that when you follow along and you listen, particularly on Twitter, and all the negativity that appears to be going on with the NBA, that's pretty impressive that it was their most watched season in light of all of that.
Yeah. And it's rightfully so, because we're going to get to the second round and you're going to sit down and watch some games and think, man, this could be a finals game. And one of these teams isn't even going to make the conference finals. It's going to be fun to watch.
In light of all of this, before we close out our NBA coverage this morning, I was thinking about this, and I'm going to spring this on you, this question, but I know you can come up with something. You may even agree with the ones I've listed. But as we get ready to start the playoffs, what is the greatest unlikely NBA playoff run that we've ever seen? I'm going to rattle off a few of these, and you may have some more to add to it. But as I was thinking about this question in my own mind, as far as unlikely, out of nowhere, lightning in a bottle type runs. One of those is the Cavs in 2016. Now, I believe, of course, that was LeBron's first season back with Cleveland. I didn't go back and look. They may have been. I believe they were the top seed in the East, which may kind of take some of the luster off this. But there was no one giving them a shot to beat Golden State in the finals.
No.
I mean, LeBron and Matthew Dellavedova willed them to that.
Yeah,
that's where I believe LeBron, even though he had those titles with the Heat under his belt, I believe that's where LeBron stamped his place in history in the NBA, was that season in Cleveland.
Well, and let's be honest, a guy named Kyrie Irving did play a role.
He did.
Yeah, in fact, had the game-winning shot. But yeah, that was one of the more improbable. It wasn't improbable that Cleveland got to the finals because the East was terrible. You knew Cleveland was going to make it. But beating that Golden State team, man, that was one of the best accomplishments ever in the NBA.
Yeah, that may have been the most exciting series I've watched in the NBA in the past 15 years.
I believe it.
For me personally. I mean, I was riveted to that, and I really had no stake in the game at the time, but that was a great series. And as much as I guess poo-poo LeBron, and I know you're on the exact opposite of that. Not that I don't think he's a great player and a historic player and a Hall of Fame player. He's changed the game. I mean, I give him that. But man, that season, watching that series made me shake my head and say, you know what? The kid's got something. I mean, he's worth everything that they say. And so that was one that came to mind. I thought the Raptors in 2019 kind of came from out of nowhere. Didn't see that one coming with Kawhi Leonard leading them. And I don't think they've even sniffed it since, but it was one of those, again, lightning in a bottle type experiences. Yep. They got at the right time and found their magic. I thought about last year with the Pacers. Didn't see that one coming. I thought that was pretty unlikely, and literally got to the Game 7 against the best team in basketball. But then my number one goes back, and shocking this is going to be, but 2011 Dallas. Not so much that the Mavs were talented. They had an all NBA player in Dirk, of course, and a Hall of Famer. Talk about changing the game. We don't talk enough about Dirk, the way he changed the game, at least for big men, right?
Right.
But, with Sean Marion and Tyson Chandler and Jason Kidd and Jason Terry, even with all of that, of course, they get to the finals and they are playing really the first super team in the NBA. The Heat pretty much put that together. And no one gave the Mavs a shot at winning that series, especially after Game 1 when they just got ran out of the building and almost got ran out of the building in Game 2. And, of course, we all know Dirk led that comeback. And anyway, the Mavs go off and win that one. But just the fact that they were facing, a LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, kind of triumvirate there that everybody had just crowned the summer before when LeBron made the decision. I thought, to me, at least in my life and personally, it may be a little bit of bias, but I think that's been the greatest unlikely NBA playoff championship run I've ever seen. You may have some more off the top of your head, but those are the four that came to my mind.
Well, I'll give you a couple just based on the seeding of it all. 1999, which was a strike shortened season, so this one's a kind of a little bit of a blip, but New York Knicks made it to the finals as the 8th seed. It was incredible, beating Miami the 1 in the first round, and then just sort of it just kept rolling before they ran into the Spurs, and that was the Spurs' first championship. So that is one. Also, you know, the break that Jordan took, the 2-year break there, I'm not really going to call it retirement. I don't think he ever planned to retire. But you know, the Rockets and the Knicks fill in the void. Patrick Ewing finally makes a finals, and it's Ewing against Olajuwon, and Olajuwon wins it. A lot of people don't know. They know that Houston won it the next year as well against Shaq and the Orlando Magic. What I don't think they know for sure, or may not remember, the Rockets were the 6th seed in the West that year. And, of course, no one was shocked. They had some injuries. The regular season didn't quite go the way they thought, but they made that run to another championship. But I have to agree with you, actually, because you're right. They have an all-NBA guy. Dirk was on the back end of things in 2011, as was Jason Kidd, as was Jason Terry, as was Sean Marion. They were a bunch of guys that it was like, hey, these are all really good guys, good dudes, and they've never won a title, and it would be really cool if they could win one. And then they tear through Kobe and the Lakers. They tear through KD and Westbrook and Harden and the Thunder, who still hadn't quite arrived yet, obviously. And then they beat, and of course, they caught the Heat at the right time. The first year of that triumvirate, the big three, where they're still trying to piece it all together. But yeah, just a fascinating run by then. One of the more enjoyable things. It felt like all that was wrong with the 06 title was just the failure in 06. You rarely get to see that kind of, here's your opportunity at redemption, and they did it. That was one of my favorite, even though I've seen a couple Celtics titles in my lifetime. That was maybe one of my favorites to watch, just to see the Mavs just kind of, you know, exercise all those demons and get that championship. It was phenomenal.
Yeah, it was great. And some buddies of mine, I mean, we look at it, and that's the first time it really meant something to me where, you know, flags fly forever, man. It doesn't matter. We had tried for so long and had so much heartbreak with the Mavs going into that series, and to come away finally and be the last one standing. If we never win another one, they could never take that one away.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm starting to think that about my Rangers, but we'll get to that here in just a second. Let's move on here to give kind of an update on the NFL draft, which, as we are recording this, Matt, is less than a week away. I want to kind of add, I don't have my mock draft here. I've decided I'm going to wait until middle of part of next week before sharing that to my final mock draft. But the way I've seen this and have been following it, and we talked about this a little bit the other day, but as far as the key for Dallas here that I see now, short of the Cowboys moving up and making a big splash, the way I see this draft, based on everything that I can see and follow from the quote experts, there's 2 words here that are going to affect Dallas that you may want to watch on Thursday night, okay, before they get on the clock, and that's Jeremiah Love. Okay. And we mentioned him briefly the other day, and I mentioned him in my mock about how I see him based on needs potentially falling late in the first round. As this has gone on, I don't think it's going to be that drastic of a fall for him. He's just too talented of a player. A top 3 player in this draft for sure, talent-wise. But as far as Dallas, because of that, there really are no can't-miss standout type offensive players outside of the couple of offensive tackles, the one from Miami and or there's a couple from Utah actually too as well. But I don't necessarily see those being top 6, 7 guys the way the draft falls now. So here's the key. If Jeremiah Love goes in the first 11 picks, that's a quality defensive player that is still going to be on the board for Dallas. If he is not drafted in the first 11, I think you could see the Cowboys sitting there having to make a tough choice of either taking someone that they don't really want to take at 12 or trying to trade out of that spot. Which, as we get closer, to me, it's like if for some reason the Cowboys can't find a way to end up with a Caleb Downs or a Sonny Styles or even an Arvell Reese out of this thing, the 3 guys from Ohio State, that for me personally, as a fan sitting here watching it on Thursday night, I'm saying, get out of there. Get you a couple more picks, trade back if you can find somebody, because sitting there at 12, if those guys are gone and the draft falls in a way that, again, Jeremiah Love doesn't take one of those 11 spots in front of you from someone, man, I don't know that there's anyone sitting there that's worth a number 12 at that point.
Yeah, in that scenario, if those 3 guys are gone in the first 11 picks, you have 2 choices as the Cowboys. You trade or you take Jeremiah Love. And I know they need defense. I know the defense is the problem. I also know that the likelihood of you drafting somebody at 12 that suddenly changes your defense from bad to good is 0%. The likelihood of you drafting 2 defensive guys at 12 and 20 and changing your defense from bad to good is maybe 2%. The idea of you adding Jeremiah Love to that offense and it going from very good to elite, maybe the best in the NFL, is a much higher percentage. And I am always in favor of building on what you're really good at. And the Cowboys were a really good offensive team last year. Yes, they need defense, but at the end of the day, you're going to have players that you're going to have to scheme your way through coaching into being acceptable, into being something that doesn't lose the game for you. That's the best you can hope for on defense. And I don't care who you draft. You're not going to become the defense that they were a few years ago with Michael Parsons and with Trayvon Diggs. And when you're not going to become that this year. It doesn't matter what you do in this draft. So I completely agree. If one of those guys is not available, I'm either trading, which is probably the more likely scenario, or if Love's there. I mean, it worked with CeeDee Lamb. It worked. We didn't need a receiver, but it worked.
And I agree with you on that 100%. If your guy is not there, if you can't find a suitable trade, and when I say suitable trade, I mean I need a 2nd-round pick, I need your 1st-round pick, where I get to keep 2 first-rounders potentially, and maybe a 4th or 5th. If I can get that in this draft, because I believe there's, and this is widely known and been talked about, there's way more value in this draft, more so than any draft I can remember, in the 3rd, 4th, 5th rounds that is not available there in the 1st round, right? As I've said, there's maybe 15 1st-round grade type players on the board based on what I can see. And so, yeah, I'm with you. If you can't find the trade that gives you all of that, I mean, yeah, why not take the best player available at that point, who's going to make you a better offense? I agree with you on that. I just hope you don't sit there and you reach for something just because we say, well, we need defense. There's other ways of improving that, although they haven't done that. You either need more picks or you need to go. I've almost talked myself out of being aggressive and moving up because of your lack of draft capital. Right? I mean, you don't have anything. I mean, that's basically your draft if you do that. And so it'd be interesting to see. But again, watch where Jeremiah Love goes. If Jeremiah Love goes in the first 10 and takes one of those spots that are going to go to a defensive player, it's a good night for the Cowboys. If he doesn't, then they're going to be faced with the ones either, as you said, do we take him as he's sitting there staring at us, or do we try to trade out of this pick?
Yeah.
But anyway, wanted to mention that. And then just here, before we close out on this draft stuff, ESPN has come out with an article today, this morning actually, written by Matt Miller. And it's an NFL mock draft of the first 10 picks that are done by anonymous scouts and executives in the league who are not set to pick in the top 10. Okay. The rules on this were, again, they weren't unaffiliated with any of the teams they were assigned, and then the scouts are anonymous, and so there are no trades. They didn't make any trades. But of course, again, the least surprising thing about this will be who the Raiders take at number 1. That's Fernando Mendoza. He'll go to the Raiders, and I think that's a great pick, even though I don't think he's the best player in the draft, but that's a great pick for the Raiders. At number 2, they have Arvell Reese, the edge from Ohio State. Again, he's one of these guys that if he starts to fall, I could see Dallas being aggressive and going up to try to get him. But I don't see him falling out of the top 5. They also come up with your guy, David Bailey from Texas Tech, going to the Cardinals at 3, even though they tremendous need for offensive help. I think Bailey's too good for them to pass up here if they don't trade out of this spot. I could see them being a trade candidate. According to this, Matt, it falls great for the Cowboys because at number 4, they select for the Tennessee Titans, Jeremiah Love. Okay. Put him in that offense with Cam Ward, I think is a tremendous thing. I personally can't see Robert Saleh passing on a defensive player at this spot, but there is no question. At this point, number 4, in my book, Jeremiah Love's the best player on your board. He has to be. They have the Giants here taking Carnell Tate, the wide receiver out of Ohio State. I kind of feel, based on everything I hear, that the Giants are going to be in on Sonny Styles or a defensive player here. But, man, that would be an interesting pick for them, pairing that guy with Malik Neighbors for Jackson Dart.
Yeah.
They may go wide receiver there. This is the pick that everyone says could be the spot where Dallas jumps in, especially if Styles falls past the Giants, okay? But this is Cleveland, and this pick has them taking the offensive tackle out of Miami, Francis Mauigoa, going to the Browns. At number 7, this is where they have Sonny Styles going to the Commanders. I almost called them the Redskins. Forgive me on that, I guess, but it's habit of 55-plus years or whatever. But Sonny Styles, they have him going to the Redskins on this mock draft. I just did it. I just said Redskins. We'll move on.
You're doing so good.
Number 8 with the Saints. They have going. This was a mystery to me, but Jamad McCoy. I don't know if you've been following this kid from Tennessee. Based on what you see on tape from his 2024 season, of course, he didn't play last year. He was hurt. He had a bad knee, knee surgery. They have him going here at number 8. I've seen mock drafts and listened to draft experts that have him potentially falling out, not of just the first round, but the second round because of his knee. He does not have good reports on that knee. But according to this draft, whoever did this for the Saints, this was an AFC South area scout, mocks this kid going to the Saints.
AFC
That's ahead of Mansour
NFC?
Delane. He's an AFC South. AFC South. So
Okay.
the AFC scout. AFC North is an area scout pick for the Chiefs, and he sends them Reuben Bain, the edge out of Miami. I'm not so sure about that. I think they may go cornerback there or even get Pat Mahomes some help offensively. I could see Jeremiah Love going to them if he's on the board. I could see that. At number 10 here, the final pick in this mock, they have Caleb Downs going to the Bengals at number 10. And so, at that stage, not only do you have Jeremiah Love off the board, you have all 3 of the Ohio State defenders off the board.
Yeah.
At that point, I'm thinking, Dallas, please trade out and get more picks. You're going to need them. You're going to have to carpet bomb this thing at that point. But, man, I love this time of year. Draft season, man, gets me going. I always have just played around and did a mock draft, and this outlet now has given me an opportunity to share that, well, good or bad. But don't ever take what I tell you for sure. It's just kind of fun to share it. And I'll share my final one, my final prediction for next week on the first round. I'll share that. We'll talk some baseball this morning very quickly here. I don't know if you saw some of this, Matt. Have you been following Mason Miller?
Yeah.
This guy, you talk about a man among boys right now in the major leagues. This is astounding to me. Now, of course, he kind of was buried last year in his career with the A's. He was the best thing going that nobody knew about. But he was playing in Oakland. For some inexplicable reason, they trade him at the trade deadline. Okay. And I was kind of thinking about it yesterday as I was listening to, and of course the Rangers rose up off the mat and salvaged my well-being, my mental well-being, along with theirs as well with that ninth inning rally. But there was a comment made on the broadcast that said, of course, and Tom comparing the A's at the time to the Rangers as well, and said, of course, they don't have a designated closer either. And I'm thinking, yeah, because you traded away the very best one, maybe the best one I've ever seen, just in terms of pure stuff last year. And he's only 27 years old. But to this point in the season, Matt, through yesterday, here's Mason Miller. He's with the Padres now. He was the one that got traded to the Padres. He's pitched in 9 regular season games. He's 1-0, a 0.00 ERA. He's thrown 9.1 innings in those games, a WHIP of 0.21, which WHIP, of course, for you novices out there, that's basically base runners that you allow, right? So he's less than a quarter of a base runner allowed per game this season or per inning. And Matt, in 9 innings, he struck out 23. I'm no mathematician, but that's almost striking out the side every time out.
Yeah.
And then look at this. Mason Miller this season, break it down even more. He's faced 30 batters. He's faced 30 batters. He's thrown 31 balls, and he has those 23 strikeouts. Has not allowed a run in 254 days. Let that ruminate for a couple minutes out there and just think of how historic those stats are. I've seen some pitchers be that dominant, but they've been 10 years old.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've done that. I've seen that, but never at the highest level of baseball have I ever seen anybody have this kind of run to start a season.
Well, and we saw some of that in the World Baseball Classic. I mean, he closed out the biggest win we had. Yeah.
He's literally unhittable. I mean, if you go into a game against the Padres and you're down by a run or two in the ninth, forget it. Game's over.
Yep.
And there's only a handful of guys you can say in history that have been that way. The last one probably being Mariano Rivera in his heyday. This kid here, man, if you got bullpen problems, he solves them, at least in the ninth. So just kind of floored by that. Keep your eye on Mason Miller as far as Cy Young type things as a reliever for sure. Kind of made some fun with my friends down in Houston last week, or actually last podcast, but I'm going to be a little bit more lighthearted with them because they're having some injury issues. They're expected to start a pitcher tonight. A kid named Peter Lambert is going to start their Friday series opener against the Cardinals. Matt, he will be their 10th pitcher to start a game in their first 21 games. They have been decimated by injuries on that pitching staff. Hunter Brown, Javier, Burrow. These are the names of their starters that they've rolled out there through the first 21 games. Brown, Javier, Burrows, McCullers, Imai, their Japanese import, who I don't know if you followed that this week. He's having issues with adjusting to American culture. He's having some problems with that. Weiss, Bolton, Arrighetti, Gordon, and Lambert. If I struggled with those names, it's because no one knows who they are, including me. That's where the Astros are. Anybody that's upset with Houston, any fans out there, that's probably where it all begins. They can't keep a healthy arm out on the mound. That's another interesting stat. And then here, I wanted to close out the baseball part of today's podcast with this. Is Josh Young back? I was texting some friends last night after the game, And I said, it's great to have whoever kidnapped Josh Young 2 years ago, that they finally released him, because I think he's back, or he's definitely on the way back. In his last 2 weeks of action, of course, everyone was killing him. He started out the season, I think, 0 for 17, had to have a couple of off days. But since that time, Matt, over the last 14 days, he has 13 hits in 36 at-bats. That's a 361 average. He hit his first home run of the season yesterday. He's driven in 4. He's starting to swing it with a little bit more pop, starting to barrel some balls up pretty good. And I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that he was one of the 3 guys that I was watching early on in the season to see, kind of get an early gauge of where the Rangers were. And then Jock Peterson is another one, which he started to swing the bat a little bit better this week. And so I kind of feel it's hard to say, because, again, they're very lucky that they didn't lose 3 out of 4 to Oakland.
Yeah.
Athletics. But I'm really, really encouraged by Josh Young's recent resurgence. That bodes well for this team.
Yep.
And I know you know him because he's that old Texas Tech guy.
Yep. And it helps that they're not playing at home. That always helps the offense, as we discussed on Wednesday. So
yeah, that's a good point. Going out there and playing literally in a minor league park with the wind blowing. Okay, that brings us to the back page portion of the podcast this morning. Matt, what do you have for us on the back page?
Felt like we just ought to mention ETBU baseball and massive series. Look, that conference is so weird, right? Four teams, so you play 3 weekends. You play a 4-game series each weekend, and that's it. That's the conference. And so ETBU played Hardin Simmons last weekend, swept. Well, UMHB played Howard Payne and swept them. So this series with UMHB this weekend out here in Marshall effectively is for the conference title, even though it's only our second weekend of conference play. And they had to move it because of storms. Doubleheader yesterday. ETBU walks it off. Carson Livesay, a walk-off homer in the 7th. The first game was the 7-inning game. They win it 6-5. ETBU wins the second game 12-8. So in the driver's seat now. Today, really just need to win 1 game today, and they ought to be sitting pretty to host the conference tournament. But David, 14 home runs hit yesterday between the 2 teams in the 2 games. You remember some of Woods Field in the heyday, back before it became the program it is now, where it focused so much on pitching and defense, but you would see balls flying out of there. Old Woods Field showed back up yesterday. The ball was flying out. 14 homers in 2 games.
Yeah, I've seen a few weekends where, it definitely was the launching pad.
Yeah.
And that south wind starts to blow, man, and it blows directly out to left and center, and it can inflate some home run numbers for sure. That's crazy, though. 14 in 2 games. That makes you wonder what they're going to see today.
Well, as the pitching starts kind of dwindling down, especially in that second game. But, yeah, they only played 16 innings yesterday. And really, if you count the fact that ETBU didn't bat in the second game and only had 1 out in the first game in the last inning, they really only had about 15 innings worth of batting, and there were 14 home runs between the 2 teams. So it was a wild one shaping up to be that today.
Chicks dig the long ball, man. That's a great place to go watch a ball game, if you do. Did you see yesterday it came out where the NCAA or football NCAA is recommending an earlier start to the season prior to Labor Day?
Saw something about that.
Yeah. Under this proposal, the season would begin on the Thursday of what is now called Week 0. So that's the week before Labor Day, I believe. We would get all of those, classic interconference matchups. Still in the season the Saturday after Thanksgiving. Still have the exclusive window for the Army-Navy game. outside of the presidential executive order, which, would not be necessary in this proposal. And it's clear that it's clear that they're trying to lay the groundwork for a potential expansion of the CFP here.
Yeah.
And giving teams that extra bye week off to be able to play potentially a longer season. And the only problem I have with this is that, again, this has nothing to do with college football. It is a semi-pro league, because the extending the football season by any amount is, again, not conducive to university life.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. It is what it is, but that is what college football has become. And we've said that college sports have become a semi-pro league. And whether that's good, bad, whatever you think about that, that's what it is. And so this is going to continue. You're going to continue to see these tweaks until they get to the point where they're able, I think, to expand the CFP. And we've talked about that ad nauseum here and what we think about that. But yeah, that came down yesterday as a proposal from the NCAA, which I would think would probably have widespread approval. We'll see how that plays out. Also wanted to, and we said this earlier in the season, and I just wanted to circle back around to it. But Matt, Florida's demise on the baseball diamond, college baseball, has been greatly exaggerated. Here's some things to talk about with Florida baseball. Okay. They have 11 losses this year. This is a tweet from Random SEC. 10 of those losses are to unranked teams. That includes High Point twice. They got beat twice. Bethune-Cookman, and UAB. Okay. Those are some teams. And we talked about the craziness that happens on Tuesdays midweek in college baseball.
Yes.
Only one of those is a ranked. Only one of their losses, though, has been to a ranked team. They are a national best 11-1 against ranked teams. And so, they had that particularly bad series. Was it Arkansas that swept them, or went in there and swept them?
No, they came to Arkansas and swept us.
Okay, it was someone else that went into Florida that weekend. Maybe it was Alabama. I can't remember. But they went in there and they swept them, and got the whole image of their coach crying in the dugout, or looking like he wanted to be a million other places. And so we all jumped on Florida and talked about how, this was heading south for them, but apparently it's not. They've got the talent to beat anyone they play, as having the talent to lose to anyone they play. Yep. And those are the worst kind of teams to face, particularly this time of year, because you never know which one you're going to see. Thought that was interesting. And then finally, circling back here locally, wanted to make mention of this here, but the Hallsville Lady Cats have a new head volleyball coach. He is Andrew Harbison, which – man, this is an outstanding hire for Hallsville. Been at Spring Hill most recently. Took Spring Hill to the state semifinals last year, and that comes off of back-to-back regional finalist finishes in 22 and 2023. Been a 28-year coaching veteran with a 403, 203 overall mark. That's a plus 200 in the win column. And at Spring Hill over the last 4 years, Maddie's been 155 and 27. Got some college experience coaching, some high school coaching mixed in there. So, man, I think Hallsville hit a home run with this type of coach coming in to take on a pretty good program he's got waiting on him here in Hallsville.
When you got a program like that, you can get a guy like that, and that's what they did for sure.
So welcome to Hallsville, Coach Andrew Harbison. Looking forward to some good things continuing, and even better things. Man, and we talked about it all year long, but Hallsville volleyball is one of those teams that kind of is a poster child for this, of that tough first round matchup against that district, which would have been, I guess, 9-5A the last couple of years. The Lucas Lovejoys and the teams out of that district have just given us fits. McKinney North, it was the one really that we've had trouble with. But we'll see if Coach Harbison, he's certainly got the resume, can get you past that hurdle. We'll see over here. So good stuff for the Lady Cats. That brings us to our final word of the podcast today, and I am handing this one over to my pastor friend, Matt, to give us a final word this morning.
Yeah, I decided to it's actually the focal verse of the passage I'm preaching on this Sunday, but it's a pretty familiar passage where Elijah and the prophets of Baal have the contest on Mount Carmel. But I didn't really realize this. It was a fascinating verse I read, and it really seems timely for the day we live in. 1 Kings 18:21, Elijah came near to all the people of Israel and said, "How long will you go limping between two different opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him. But if Baal, then follow him." And limping between two different opinions has just been on my mind and on my heart lately. Just kind of sometimes we make it harder than it needs to be, and sometimes what we ought to believe and who we ought to follow is clear. Sometimes actually a lot of times it's clear, and a lot of times it's clear who we ought to not follow. And the people of Israel struggled with that throughout their history. The people of God throughout all of our history have struggled with that. We get brought sideways by a lot of things in this world, by our own struggles, by our own circumstances. And we try to, I think the analogy I'm going to give is, if you've ever been driving down the highway and there's some guy that you can't tell if he's changing lanes or not, and he just sort of straddles the line, and you're just like, pick a lane, man, pick a lane. Sometimes we got to do that. We got to quit limping between two different opinions. If the Lord is God, Elijah said, follow him. Well, he is. And we need to make that choice each and every day, no matter what it costs.
Great stuff, man. Makes me want to come to Friendship Sunday.
Hey, you can just follow it on. You can catch it on Facebook afterward. It's fine.
That's right. Friendship Baptist in Marshall, right there on Facebook. Absolutely. But yeah, what a great word that is. And I love Elijah. He is the first recorded version of trash talking.
Yes, definitely.
Go read him against the prophets of Baal.
That's right. Said. 1 Kings 18. Good stuff.
That's right. He is Matt. I'm David, and this is From the Press Box on the Right Team Podcast. If you enjoyed our show, be sure to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. That's very important. Like and subscribe. And don't forget to check us out on YouTube at The Right Team Podcast. You can also follow our Facebook page for additional content and updates you won't want to miss. Most importantly, stay tuned, subscribe, and do not miss an episode. We've got something for everyone on this podcast. A big thank you, as always, to our sponsors, Styles Electric and Right Team Services. We truly appreciate your support. Also want to thank our Right Team family of school districts in Elysian Fields, Karnak, Hallsville, and up in Smackover, Arkansas, for also helping make all of this possible. And today, of course, we want to thank our special guest who came on at the beginning, Coach Bo Maines from Elysian Fields. And we're going to start kind of hopefully integrating more of that kind of stuff into the podcast here as we move into the end of the school year and then coming up into, of course, the fall. Thank you for listening and supporting us right here from the heart of the East Texas Piney Woods. Until next time, as always, keep writing your story. At Styles Electric, we believe in doing the job right every single time. Since 1999, we've built a reputation for being reliable, professional, and experienced across commercial projects throughout East Texas. And right now, we're growing. If you're an electrician or looking to start a career in the electrical trade, we want to hear from you. At Styles Electric, you're not just another employee, you're part of a team that takes pride in its work and its people. Join a company where service speaks for itself. Apply today and power your future with Styles Electric. At Hallsville Independent School District, excellence isn't just a goal, it's our tradition. Home of the Bobcats, Hallsville ISD is known for championship caliber athletic programs and award-winning academics that set our students apart. From competition arenas to the classroom, Bobcats rise to the challenge, achieving at the highest levels and representing our community with pride. Hallsville ISD, where Bobcats are built to compete, achieve, and succeed. Nestled on the shores of beautiful Caddo Lake, Karnak ISD is where education feels like family. Serving students from pre-K through 8th grade, Karnak offers a close-knit environment where every child is known, supported, and inspired to succeed. Here, it's more than just a classroom. It's a community that takes pride in giving each student the attention they deserve. With strong values, caring educators, and a true family atmosphere, Karnak ISD is shaping bright futures every day. Learn more at www.karnakisd.org. Karnak ISD, where every student matters. At Elysian Fields ISD, we're more than just a school district. Tradition lives here, where pride, excellence, and community are passed down from one generation to the next. From the classroom to the competition floor, our students carry on a tradition of hard work, character, and success. And now, it's your opportunity to be a part of it. Elysian Fields ISD is currently accepting interdistrict transfers. Visit our website at www.efisd.net to learn more. Join the tradition. Experience the difference. Elysian Fields ISD, where our past carries our future. Here in East Texas, every story matters, and Right Team Services is here to help you tell yours. From grant writing for local schools and nonprofits to social media, press releases, and website content for small businesses, we're proud to serve the people and communities right here at home. Clear, professional, effective. If you've got something to say, we'll help you say it right. Right Team Services, serving East Texas one story at a time.